Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video. Today we are going to take a look at the advanced Caro Kann, and we are going to take a look at how the theory is going to work, because a few days ago I got a comment on my Instagram that told me that they are struggling in the Caro Kann and that they've never won with the Caro Kann before. And obviously there's an issue with that because Caro Kann is basically one of the best openings that you can get, and that's why today we are going to have a look at the advanced variation. So the advanced variation happens after e4 c6. This is the Caro Kann, and then they put two pawns in the center. This is a very important aspect, and after you push your pawn, they're going to push, and this is the advanced variation. Now, what are you going to do? Well, here there are two variations, but I'm not going to go into the Botvinnik-Karls variation today. We are actually just going to play bishop to f5, and from here we are going to see what our opponent can do and how we can respond. Let's first have a look at what happens if they offer a bishop trade. Now, if they offer a bishop trade, you should just take, and after they take back, you have to play this move e6. Why you have to play this move e6? Because if, for example, you're going to develop your knight, your opponent is going to push e6, and you think, well, it's just a free pawn. Yeah, but now this diagonal is very weak, very, very weak, and after some stupid moves, preventing the knight like this, you would even have something like checkmate, and we don't want stuff like that to happen. That's why we need to play e6. First of all, we free up the bishop, and second of all, they cannot open this diagonal with this move. So now, what they usually do is they develop one of the knights, it doesn't really matter, or they can develop the bishop too. What in that instance, what we're going to do is simply play this move c5. And now here they can protect or take, it doesn't really matter. If they take, you're going to take back with the bishop, and now they have a check. It looks like you are losing the bishop, but here you got a move that saves it. You block the check, and then you also protect the bishop. And here they can even take one more pawn, but even by Stockfish this is considered better, and I would recommend you to play this variation if it happens. After they go away, you're just going to develop your knight, and from here on, you're not going to place your knight here because it's protected, but first of all, you're going to target this. Second of all, you have a really active rook, and he's going to struggle. Like right away, he cannot even develop the bishop because you would take. So that's why this variation is so strong. And you can see your development is way better. And even though he's up a pawn, you're probably going to get it back later on as well. And second of all, you got a really active position with these pieces on very active squares, and you can even jump the knight somewhere else. But to keep it short, after this move e6, if they develop the knight, you push c5. Now, if they protect it, you don't take right away, but you are just going to develop your knight. Why you are going to develop your knight? Basically, you don't want to take because that is going to give them the strong center, and here they still have the option to take, to which you would develop the bishop instantly, and then you can bring the knight over here as well. Now, your opponent, if they are a bit more experienced, they're going to try to be annoying. They're going to keep the tension over here, which is a very high level thing. But first of all, what you can do is you can first develop your queen, bring your queen to b6, and now his bishop is struggling to develop. Second of all, what you're going to be able to do now, after they do not develop the bishop but develop the knight, you can actually move your knight because you can still take the pawn back. If you would have developed the knight before, they just take, and then when you try to go away, thinking you've got a discovered attack, they would generally play b4, and this would be very annoying. Now, here there is a small move, just so you know, to see the patterns in the Caro Kann, and that's what's important about it. You could actually have this danger level sort of thing, but still doesn't work, simply because they protect this and this at the same time, and you cannot capture that. So you would maybe try to pressure like this and maybe discover the attack on this later on, but that doesn't work. So very important aspect, play queen to b6 first, and that is going to help you the most in this specific scenario. Now that you know what to do if they offer a bishop trade, we're going to take a look at what happens if they attack you. This doesn't look like a real attack on the first glance if you don't know what it's all about. But you're going to play e6, and now all of a sudden you're going to get chased around like this, and you're going to lose the bishop. You see, you have absolutely no squares for the bishop. You either have to sacrifice here or here to at least get the pawn back, and then you're going to lose. So you do not want that. That's why when you see this move, h4, you do not play e6, and this is the exception to the rule. Why don't you play that? As we just saw, it traps your bishop, and instead of that, I advise you to play this move h5. Stockfish also says that you can play h6, and of course, it's a good move. Generally, Stockfish even suggests that h5 is a better move, slightly, but h6 literally runs into this g4, and after you slide the bishop back, you have this move e6, and this is basic preparation that people actually have in tournaments and stuff like that. I've played against this before. And here, if you take again the same stuff, they're gonna try to trade off this bishop, and if you do trade, which is even one of the best moves, you can see you're going to really struggle because they're going to infiltrate on those diagonals really soon. And you either have to like bring out your queen, which is the high level idea here, and then after something like check, you can still partly run away. And it's even better to go here because you can develop the knight and bring the king there as well. And that's the idea. Now, if you go to d7, they instantly try to jump in with the knight in there, and you're going to have a lot of trouble. You don't have the knight to protect it, and that's why if this happens to you, go to d8. Okay, now we saw what happens in the Tal variation, but now we have the bayonet attack. Bayonet attack is a very interesting variation because if you go back, they're going to attack you like this, and we're sort of still going to see this move right here, which seems like it just loses a pawn, but again, here they can even push, and they're going to be very annoying. You cannot develop your knight for the rest of the game basically, and you're gonna have to develop your queen or simply just try to bring the knight out and pawn break or stuff like that. So this variation is going to be quite interesting. That's why first, even Stockfish recommends here you should go here, simply because after they block you can go back, and here the development of their knight is actually a bit hindered. And after you play h5 and they play e6, first of all you would need to play queen to d6, and after take you take back with the bishop, and the knight development, even though it is hindered, you still got quite a few chances, okay? And in this specific scenario, if they play g5, you actually have this beautiful check over here. And after they run the king, you're just simply going to develop your knight. And after you develop your knight, you're going to sort of start an attack on your enemy. You can see the king is now very weak and is going to struggle. Okay, they can attack you, but that doesn't really need to lead to anything. Wow. Okay, let's have a look at one more variation before we slide into the rest of the Caro Kann opening theory, because here there is another thing that they can do, right? So obviously, usually your opponents are going to simply develop the knight, and this is what happens most often, but they can even play something like c4. And c4 is quite tricky, but you still have to maintain this e6, and then after takes, you're still going to be completely fine. And after stuff like this, again, you always trade when stuff like this happens, and you just continue with your development from there on. And as long as you get your pieces out, this is usually where the knight goes in the Caro Kann, but sometimes when you pressure this pawn, you're going to place it there. Queen goes to b6 and rook c8 and castles short side 99% of the time. Now, I'm going to implement one more variation, and it is not the advanced variation, but you're going to need it. And the other variations I'm going to show, where they bring the knight out, I'm going to show in another video. But here, and why I'm touching on this is because, first of all, you think you're going into the advance, because 99% of the time they push. They can also take, so maybe people like to take. Let's actually see what the percentage is here. Okay, so in this specific scenario, knight c3, due to the alien gambit, has been popularized, but usually e5 and e takes d5 are the most popular moves. e5 here actually having a 50% chance to be played. So this is what you're going to see the most. But let's actually go into the fantasy. Now the fantasy variation is something special. Why? Because after takes, now this is going to be an interesting opening. And you have to play this move e5. Why? Well, if they take, you don't actually trade queens. It looks like maybe you're trading queens, and then he cannot castle, and then you just continue with your development, target this pawn, but actually It's not even better for you at all, so you cannot do that. You have to give this check, queen to h4 check, and this is how you handle the the fantasy variation. And very important, if they take only, right? So you're going to give this check. If they block, you are going to see the same pattern as in the wayward queen attack, and you're going to win the rook in the corner. And if they don't take but actually run the king, you're just going to, I mean, not give this check because they can just block with the knight. This is what looks to be winning a queen at first glance, but your opponent can block. So you just capture here, and slowly but surely you're going to attack your opponent by developing all your pieces, and it's actually going to be quite scary for your opponent, especially if they don't play the correct move here trying to defend this square. Otherwise, they're probably going to lose the game quite early on. Now, if they don't take, usually they develop the knight, you're going to develop your bishop to g4. And this is actually something that people are going to use against you a lot. And here, bishop to c4, they don't even capture again. If they were to capture here, now you can actually trade the queens. And after they take back, you're going to target this because it's not that easy to defend anymore. And after they develop something like this, you're going to offer discovered attack and to threaten discovered attack. So this is basically what you're going to do. Now again, knight f3, and then you're going to develop your bishop, and then after they play this, it is going to be quite interesting, simply because now here you have to play this move, knight to d7. What happens if you play knight to f6? They're simply going to sacrifice the bishop. Interesting tactic, right? Because after takes, they can take here, and then what is going to happen? Okay, it's going to be a really nice fork for him. So that's why I need to develop this knight first to protect that, and now if they were to sacrifice, you would just take back, and after this, this is protecting, and you would instantly win the game, okay? Very important aspect. So develop knight to d7, and then usually you see castles. Now you're safe to develop the other knight, and usually they play something like c3 to try to go here. And now you do have to be careful. Developing your bishop is the correct move, and after queen to b3, you just castle. And it looks like he's infiltrating and he's going to win a lot of pawns, but you actually have some counterplay here, and this doesn't actually work because you're just going to take, and that is going to lead to a very comfortable position for you actually. So this is how you basically handle the fantasy variation and the advanced variation. And if you're still struggling to lose, check out my next video because it's going to be how to play the Caro Kann when they develop the knights. And we're going to touch on another variation that is quite interesting, but you may have not seen it yet with white. Okay, have fun, see you next time. Good luck learning, and let me know how it went for you, okay?